Why South Sudan? An Every Village podcast where we answer questions about the world's youngest nation. The question of the day is, what fundraisers have you done in the past? Hey everyone, this is Tiana Johnson, the host of this podcast called Why South Sudan. So today, as I say every time, we have a special guest. We have a good one coming in for you. This is Andrew Brown.
Hey, Tiana.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
I feel like we haven't had you in the hot seat in a while, so.
It has felt a while.
It has.
I will say, since the last time I was on the podcast, I went to South Sudan, so then everything feels like forever. When you go to South Sudan, it feels like the world changed while you were gone. So.
It is true, actually. Yeah. There's a lot to catch up on. Yeah. Well, we're so happy to have you back. And I thought, you know what? Let's do some podcasts. So here we go. Okay, so you've been with us going on, wait, you just said it the other day, 17 years?
Yes.
Holy smokes. That's a long time.
It is.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, well, we're so happy that you've been here, but you know a lot. I think your brain is a big, massive library for every village. So I'm grateful to have these podcasts because now we get to have an audio library here. So today's question is in reference to the fundraisers. We have done many. So I'd love to kind of go through and brainstorm, talk about the fundraisers, kind of, and just seeing the shift, I think culturally, maybe, how much the style of fundraising has shifted. I thought it'd just be like a fun conversation just to pick your brain on.
For sure. No, that's great. And, I was just thinking that, like, once you get my brain dump from the Every Village history, then you can just put me down. Cause,
there we go.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought that, but anyway. Working myself out of a job. How about that? Yeah, I mean, our fundraisers, obviously we've had so many, and you try new things along the way, and some work well and some don't work so well. But in general, I have our fundraisers have been so fun. South Sudan's a fun place to talk about because it's so starkly different from the United States, and so when you have the opportunity to show pictures and share stories and just talk about some of the stats, it really is, it's shocking. But then you also get to highlight what God's doing, and that's always the best thing about any fundraising event. Typically, it's just we want them to be God-centered, and so I'll go all the way back to the very beginning. I remember in 2008 when I joined staff with Every Village, my very first week we had a gala, and that was at a church, and so we back then I think that was the last year we did a gala at a church. And so, it's a typical, dinner room setting and presentations and so forth. And, but I just remember jumping in, and it was me, and we had a part-time event coordinator, and then Peter Swan, the executive director, and then one other guy on staff. And so it was just four of us. And we just jumped in, and it was my first week, and, it was fun. I was really excited. And so from there, that gala, annual gala grew and grew and grew. And God really blessed it. And it was kind of a highlight for a lot of folks, an annual highlight of, man, we can't wait to go back to the Every Village Gala and hear updates of what God's doing. And it became kind of like a reunion as well. A lot of people, a very, very garrulous crowd. It would be hard for us to get people to stop talking at the beginning because they loved coming and seeing each other. And then, of course, hearing the stories. And so that grew from, hotel to hotel, and the ballroom size grew with the crowd. And I think 2017 was our final gala. And I don't remember. We had over 700 people, I think, there. So it really filled out the room. And Tiana, I know that was one of your initial touch points. And you've talked about that on this podcast before. God called you to South Sudan at one of those galas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. What year was that?
2014.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I remember, through the years, those galas, of course, we're telling the work of what God's doing, and it's a fundraiser, so we're asking for support. But also, in some of those multiple years, we were not only asking for financial support, we were asking for missionaries, for people to respond to the call of God to come and move to South Sudan. So it was, all kinds of things during those years, and those were fond memories. Along with the annual gala in Houston, we had another very well-known event, and that was the 5K. And that was really neat. Again, I can't remember. I think maybe 2008 was our first year to do it. I don't remember exactly. But it was originally hosted by Houston's First Baptist Church. And so really they were the ones that said, hey, we want to do a 5K to benefit every village, and we'll run with it and plan it and organize it and everything. And that was amazing. And we did that for, I think, 3 years, hosted by First Baptist. And I mean, like, I think one year we had 950 people or something. It was huge. Really, really cool event. And then we started hosting our own 5K the fourth year, I believe, to keep that annual tradition going. And over the years, it took on different aspects. At first it was just kind of the Aid Sudan 5K, which was our name back then. And then we shifted when we became Every Village, it shifted into the Run for Radios. And so it became a fundraiser for our solar powered radios every single year. And that was an amazing deal. And then one year we kind of switched it up, and we had Run for Radios and Walk for Water. And we had 2 different color shirts, and you could choose which one you wanted to support. And that was fun as well. And so we did that. And I think we've done it probably 13 years or thereabouts. I don't remember, a lot of times. Last year we decided not to do it. We wanted to focus our efforts on some other events. And so it's a great event. It's a lot to put on as a team, putting on a 5K. And so, you just always have to weigh through things. And I think one of the challenges is there's always so many fun ideas to engage people. But as an organization, we're a limited staff in the U.S., and we have to be careful with our time and the expenses and a lot of factors. And so sometimes you have to say no to really good things. And so that's kind of where we are right now. It doesn't mean we won't ever do a 5K again. We might, but we're just kind of waiting and seeing what's the most effective way to spend money, to make money, you might say. Then in 2018, we made a pretty significant shift, and that was when I became executive director. And without going into the full story, we were kind of at a spot where we didn't feel like we could fill a huge ballroom with gala guests, and 2 is honestly the cost of putting those on was pretty significant. Hotels are not cheap. The food at a hotel is not cheap, and just all that comes with that. And when I became executive director, I really was a strong believer in really measuring ROI, your return on your investment. How much do you make at an event versus how much you spend? And I really wanted to see that strengthen. And so for me, I really felt like we could do smaller events that maybe didn't raise quite as much gross income, but their ROI was much higher. And one of our board members at the time was a member of the Houston Polo Club. And it's kind of this hidden gem that is right on 2 major interstates, and people don't know about it. It's kind of hidden by the trees, but it's a beautiful place right in the middle of the city. And it was a unique venue space. And so we ended up having an event there, and we called it the Polo Benefit. And it's kind of this contrast of worlds as well. You kind of got this hoity-toity polo club scene benefiting South Sudan. But a lot of Houstonians have lived here their whole lives, and they've never seen a polo match. And so kind of the intrigue of that. It was nice because it was outdoors, and beautiful scene. It's more casual, come and go, relaxed atmosphere. It wasn't like you sit down to a dinner of rubber chicken and see 5 presentations, And so I think people really liked that. And I really liked that. And, our message was short and sweet. And then we watched the polo match, and it gave us a chance to just mingle with guests, and it was fun. So we did that for, I think, 6 years. And I will say, though, doing outdoor events is always a little stressful. You're dependent on the weather, which in Houston, the rain is a real factor, but also the heat. And we kept on pushing it later and later. Remember, we moved it into November. And for any of our listeners who don't live in Houston, you still, in November, might have 92 degrees and 80% humidity,
Yes.
It's just yucky.
There was one time I remember you were just like in the direct sun, middle.
All right, yeah.
In a suit.
In a suit, right, yeah. It's we had those. But the year before, we had the guests in the sun, and we realized that wasn't good. So
sorry about that, guys.
Anyway, so, it was a fun event, but last year, we said, you know what, we really feel like we need to move on. The risk of outdoor event is just tough, B, kind of that newness of the polo club had worn off a bit. But I think the most important thing for me was in an outdoor space, you just can't highlight videos, pictures, stories of South Sudan very well. And we were really missing out on that connection to South Sudan. And so we started brainstorming as a team. Okay, what could we do? And one of our board members is friends with an owner of this a warehouse that does hosts immersive events basically, and it's a 3 60-foot walls of projection screen, and even the floors can be projected on, and just this blank canvas. And man, we went by it, and the possibilities were endless. It started, my mind just started going crazy. I was like, man, this is exciting. And I'm a marketing major by background, and so I had all these ideas of utilizing the space, and so we went for it. It was a lot of work, a lot of work.
How many slides did you make?
I don't remember. I mean, it was well over 200 slides, and they had to be timed properly. And I mean, it kind of felt like an immersive TED Talk, you might say. I don't really know how to describe it. It was so fun. We shot some really high-end videos for it, and just did a lot of really creative things. And it's a smaller space, only about 150 max capacity. And it just was mind-blowing. The end product, I think all of us, all of our guests, our board, everybody was just blown away experiencing South Sudan in a way that they'd never experienced before. We called the event Come and See, and that was a perfect name for it. It was inviting people to come and see South Sudan, come and see what the Lord is doing. And that was our big prayer. It's like, we want this to be lifting up the name of Christ and what he's doing and how he's at work. And we want this to be an experience, a way for people who will never travel to South Sudan, a way for them to experience it in a way that they wouldn't before. And I think those two things were accomplished so well that immediately we had people say, can you do this event again? I want to bring more people back. And you don't hear that very often with fundraising events. And
I don't think we've ever heard it. That's great.
And so we decided to do it a second time last year. I don't know, about 4 months later or thereabouts. And it went just as well the second time, and the same response of people blown away. And there were people who had been at both, and they still said, this was the most amazing event I've been to. And so it was just really, really neat to see. And so then we decided to do it a third time. And so we went into the year planning one event, and we ended up with 3. And it was really amazing. And so, that's kind of where we are. And the Come and See name was a really cool brand. And so, we're keeping that, and we're going to do it again this next year with a brand new program. The challenge of always bringing in, new ways to use the space. It's a lot, but we're really excited. We're also looking at even taking the show on the road, you might say, and we think that we could replicate Come and Sees across the United States. And so a lot of really exciting things. And so those are kind of our foundational events that we've done over the years. But also, I just want to say we've also done a lot of, I'll call more boutique or smaller events that are so fun. And we kind of meet our support base where they're at. We invite our advocacy board to host private events, and they can do that at a restaurant. They can do that in their home. They can do that. We've had a tennis tournament, a ladies' tennis tournament. We've done a pickleball tournament. We've done a variety of things that, people can bring 10 people to, or they can bring, 100 people to. We had a family day event one time. So that's always fun because, it's the brainchild of our support base. And frankly, it's nice for our team because we're not typically the ones organizing and planning it. It's our advocacy group. And they're putting their name out on the line, and they're saying, hey, this is something I'm passionate about. Come learn more. And so we always love that. And again, bang for your buck. Those are the most cost efficient of all. And it's such a great way. And they can be, targeted towards just awareness, getting people hearing the story. They can be targeted towards raising towards a certain dollar amount, a larger amount, or it could be raised toward just raising monthly donor base, new monthly donors. And we've done all 3 of those, and they've all been effective in their own way. And so I love those private events, and they're just incredible. So those are the ones that come to mind over the years, and it's been a lot of fun.
It's really been fun to hear kind of just like, I think the timeline of how every village has went from church gala to a gala in like massive ballroom. Because I mean, and those were very impactful because obviously I moved to South Sudan because, well, really because of the Lord, but going to one of the galas and just being so, I was just like moved to tears, you know. I was extra emotional.
They were. I mean, they
Yeah.
were very inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah. And then now transitioning, you know, then we went through the polo benefit era and then now to come and see. And I feel like come and see is finally, because as you know, it is hard to connect South Sudan to America. Like that is just one of the hard things without going. Because even Evan hit on it when I interviewed him. Just, I mean, but he was saying the come and see really is a glimpse. It's like it's as close as you can get to then actually going. And that's what we want people to feel. We want people to experience it and everything. And so I'm it's just been so fun. And also too, I don't think we've I mean, I guess I've never for the last 9 years, I've never heard of someone coming to an event and saying like this is so amazing, I want to come back. Because it's not just immersive, it's engaging. Like it keeps your attention where I think at a gala, you know, the food's getting passed out, you mingle with your neighbor, you know, talk about the rubber chicken.
Yeah.
It's just so different. And so I love that the Lord, you know, just opened that opportunity for us too. But even kind of shifting gears, not just from a big event space, but private events. Like you hit on it a little bit, and I really like that. But I think it is just so important and I think it's helpful for ministries to have that when supporters do kind of come in and say like, hey, I'm passionate about this, I want to share this with people. And so
Yeah, it's really truly amazing when people put themselves out and they say, "Hey, I'm so passionate about this ministry that I want to let others know about it and come to support it as well." And that's really the way any ministry grows, you know. And you know, whether that's within a city or you know spreading the news nationwide, it's an amazing thing. And that I think that's the power of the private event, because there's something different about a guest going to an event that we're putting on, and that's awesome. But people expect, okay, that's the show that the ministry is putting on to make themselves known. But it's totally different when it's a private event and the host is one of your friends, and it's not a staff member. It's them who's a supporter who's you know putting it on. It's just a different message, and I always love that.
that's
So,
really good.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you know we just recently launched in Colorado. And Tim Chambers, our development director there, had our first event in Colorado Springs. And, you know, he hosted a dinner at a restaurant there. And he started with his friends and his network. And we had, I think, over 60 people there. And when I went to that room, I didn't know anybody in there. I was the outsider. But it was so fun because so many people knew each other, and just the energy in the room around friendship and community, you know, within Tim's network. And then I got to share something that none of them had ever heard of before. You know, none of them had ever heard of Every Village, and very few of them knew anything about South Sudan. And it was just an incredible evening. And like you're saying, I think, you know, these evenings can get emotional. You know, there were some tears at the end, and what God is doing is so amazing. And so I love that. And so, you know, just speaking of tears, it reminds me of one more event that's so fun. I haven't ever attended it, and I never will. But Tiana, tell us about the ladies' luncheon.
Yeah, actually last year, I just felt like the Lord just totally gave me this idea of doing a ladies' luncheon, and my heart and the vision for the event, you know, it's about 40, 50 women that either know about Every Village, but then they are able to invite a guest to come and hear about the women in South Sudan. Just life looks completely different for a woman that lives in South Sudan versus here in America. And my heart is to connect women here in America to love them the way that I do, you know, because God loves them so, so much. But also at the event, it's such a great time to gather together. Very similar to that. Like, we're excited to see each other. We get a delicious meal every time. And we get to hear a message about what God is doing in the lives. So, like, just not seeing these people as statistics, but seeing a name to a face. So knowing who Teresa Jock is, and knowing who Achol Dang is, and knowing Jaina Karaba, and seeing their passion for the next generations to come to Christ. And it's just, yeah, I love it so much. And so we had one last year, we're having another one this year. And so it's just so, so exciting. But also, even with the private event, element to it that, our advocacy board, these women that believe in the mission are planning it with me. So I'm not doing everything by myself. But it's just amazing.
I mean, can I make two typecast comments about women?
Sure.
One is women in South Sudan. They're the strongest
Yes.
people in the world. It's unbelievable. I mean, physical strength, but just emotional strength, everything they have to go through.
Yes.
Life is not easy for a woman in South Sudan.
When I visited, because I was pregnant the last time, I mean, they literally were like, sit down. I'm like, what? I'm like, you women do all of these things when you're pregnant. I mean, literally, Teresa Jock was washing my clothes at like 9 months pregnant by hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, carrying those jerry cans that are 40 pounds each and bending over and cooking. And I mean, I've seen it many times.
Yes.
Women carrying coals, like hot burning coals with their hands. I mean, they're not carrying it long distances, but they're like moving the coals because they've got to move the fire.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. Like just things like this. And we've talked about, I think, childbirth in South Sudan. They don't have any medicine. They don't have any medical care or professional. They're just having the baby naturally, and they're not screaming. They're just like grunting, maybe. I don't know. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the first typecast comment about women. The second one is about American women, and that is like women are just so much better at being passionate than men. And so the power of a ladies' event is super exciting to me because I know that truly you're going to capture hearts there in a richer way than a group of men, And we've had some more male-oriented events in the past. We've had a clay shoot, for instance, and that's great. The guys love going and having fun, and they'll hear the good message and they'll, whatever, and they might talk about it. But the honest truth is that's typically where it ends. Maybe they get home and their wife asks how their day was, and they might even forget to talk about the clay shoot. I mean, that's how men are, right?
It's so true. Oh my
But
God.
for women, you're going to hear a story. They're going to hear a story of Jane or of Teresa or whatever, and they're going to not only tell their husband, they're going to tell their friends. It's so different, right?
That is so true. That's actually very true. Because we're just so much more detail-oriented, for sure.
Yeah.
But also we are passionate that, it's the way that God made us, for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, next time you want to host more ladies events, let's do it. So.
Well, I think kind of going into that just a little bit more, but even at our Come and See, like we've had supporters. I mean, this husband and wife have been supporters of ours for years, but the wife just came to this event specifically, and it's just like totally loves it. And it's just like, I see why my husband totally supports this ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's so good and it is when you have a husband and a wife, one, come in agreement, but two, it is the woman that has the
and
passion.
that wasn't one story. I heard that at least 3 or 4 times that night from wives of husbands who've been on the board for years or been involved, and the wife saying, wow, I never really realized this about South Sudan, or like, now I understand why we're supporting this ministry. It was really, really special. Those were some of my favorite testimonies from the evening, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So, I love it.
Yeah.
Well done. Yes, this is another area that I'm very proud of Every Village. Just seeing how we have grown and changed and morphed, and we're continuing to, because culture change. I think post 2020, everybody was done with galas. It's out the door. And so you have to be creative. But God just keeps bringing things to us, which is such a blessing. So.
It is. And you know what, Tiana? We could even do a fundraiser right now on this podcast.
There we go.
Where do people go if they want to give?
Yes. Go to our website at www.everyvillage.org/give.
Very good.
Hey, I got it.
Give now and be happy later. Is that the message?
Is that the message? I don't know.
Sorry, we didn't plan this. I just took over. That's what happens when I take over. Sorry, Tiana.
Hilarious. We wing it every time. It's great. All right. Well, thanks so much. It is always fun to hear pieces of your brain. So thank you. All right. So we invite everyone back to the next episode. Oh, it's going to be a goodie. I feel like Andrew might go on a rant, and we all love that. So the question is, how does inflation affect the people of South Sudan? Take care.